In this interview, I talked to Jillian Hessel. She's a second-generation Pilates instructor with over 25 years experience, and she's worked with tons of celebrities like Cher, Hunter and Emma Thompson. Now, I was really excited to talk to Jillian. The ex-ballet dancer is considered a leading authority, and she's literally helped thousands of people to realign their bodies and improve their posture. I hope you enjoy the interview. Okay, for those people who aren't familiar with Pilates, can you describe actually what it is and how it can help people get fit and lose weight?
Well, Pilates is a very mind-body exercise, and it's an interesting meld of Eastern and Western approach to workout, because if it's truly done correctly, like yoga, you're very much in the moment. It's almost like moving meditation. And I think that it really appeals to Western type bodies and minds, because it's very hard to sit still and meditate. And of course, yoga, the whole purpose of it originally was to get the body still so that the mind could then go into meditation. But it's so hard to sit still. And in Pilates, we combine the movement with the breath, but it's flowing movement. And you really have a rhythm to how you're breathing, but also different from yoga, how you use the abdominals. It's designed, Pilates, really to support the body in dynamic movement. So it serves athletes, sedentary people, injured people. At the beginning, I like to do a posture analysis and really assess what's working and not working in good alignment, bad alignment, injuries, favoring one side, overdevelopment, maybe from being an athlete that's a one-sided sport, carrying a baby, whatever it is that's put you out of whack. But as a beginner, you're doing a lot of the exercises supine side lying or lying prone, so that instead of working against gravity, you're strengthening the intrinsic muscles of the skeletal system to support the body in good alignment. Then, as you get more advanced, you're doing more dynamic standing and balance work. So we kind of work small first and then get larger. And what that does is, rather than bulking up the muscles, we're working closest to the core outwards. And there's a very special emphasis on even muscular development, so that one set of muscles isn't ignored over the other. So it's very balanced.
Is there any particular myth that you can debunk about Pilates?
Well, the first thing is, a lot of people believe that Mr. Pilates created Pilates for dancers. And that's really not true. What's happened is, a lot of us as injured dancers were drawn to Pilates, and they were among his first clientele years and years ago in New York. And then what happened is, those people who trained with him, who retired, became Pilates teachers and so on. And we've always loved hiring dancers to teach Pilates, because it looks beautiful. It's not just for dancers. It's for human beings who want to move better, feel more comfortable in their bodies, flow. I always think to when someone walks in the room in a party and you look and, who is that? I want to know. And there's a certain energy, a certain radiance that they have, and everyone can have that when they're comfortable in their bodies. And Pilates can definitely give you that. So for people out there who don't have a dance background or even an athletic background, don't think you can't start, or that you have to lose weight before you start Pilates. Anybody can do Pilates, anybody. The other thing I think with every workout is that sometimes beginners want to do too much too soon, and they burn themselves out, they overtrain, they get sore or injured, even worse, and it's discouraging. And that's what's nice about Pilates too, because it has that gentle foundation of learning to breathe and support the core from the abdominals, and checking the body's alignment. Because if you start a weight training program and your body is not balanced properly, and you're putting stress on the body, and I mean stress in a good way in terms of weight training, but if the structure itself is not sound, you can injure yourself.
What's your hot tip that, for people to improve their health and fitness, and something that they can take away from this, something they can put into action straight away?
Well, I think I got married kind of late in life, in my 30s, and had kids late, and I don't have a lot of time. And I think that we all think, oh, I've only got 20 minutes. I might as well just sit and answer my email instead of doing something. Or, you know, I need an hour. I can't work out. I've got to go to the gym. It takes time to drive there and then come back, and I have to shower. And, you know, this is the most discouraging thing, I think, for everyone. We just have to get off our duffs and start moving. And if it's 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, parking farther away in the mall and walking, you know, we just have to start moving. And we need mindful movement, which is where Pilates and yoga can come in, using the body in a mindful way. When we reach up to grab something off the shelf, how are we doing it? Are we hunching our shoulders? My first mentor in Pilates made me so aware of how I stood. And having been a professional dancer, I was a bit arrogant about it. Well, of course, I'm a dancer. I stand beautifully. Well, I tended to stand with my weight more on one foot than the other. And I suddenly became aware, especially as a woman, to stand equally on both feet. It's a bit confrontational. It's much easier to stand like a model with one hip cocked or something. But I became aware of how I stood, and to this day, if I'm standing in the grocery store line, I can work my abdominals, I can squeeze my buttocks together, I can lift and draw myself up away from gravity instead of sinking in when I'm tired. And I think that we can be more conscious in our bodies all the time, and that's the best gift.
When somebody first starts practicing Pilates, what changes would they experience initially?
A few years ago, I wrote a book called Pilates Basics that goes in tandem with an instructional DVD called Pilates for Beginners. And if you told me years ago I was going to do this package, I would have been very surprised and said it's impossible, because it's meant to help people learn Pilates on their own at home. And I've followed some of the reviews online about it, and it's meant for beginners, so it has a very, very ultimate beginner, an intermediate beginner, and an advanced beginner program. So the disadvantage, I suppose, is that if one follows it, one could progress quite quickly. And I've seen reviews that say it's too easy, it's too easy. But the foundation work is so important. And I've also read a review where the person said, well, I was running through it, I thought it was too easy, but then later in the day, I was doing housework, and I noticed that I was moving more freely, that I was more aware of my abdominals when I bent over to pick something up. I was using my body more correctly. Gee, maybe there's something to this. So I think the first thing that a real beginner, if they're getting a good foundation, will feel is maybe an easier flow of movement, using that body, that support system that I mentioned. I use a lot of imagery when I teach people, and I speak about a suspension bridge with the cables, and the idea that our skeleton is similar to that, and that our skeleton would be the bridge itself, but the support cables are our muscles. And if the muscles have gone slack, the suspension bridge is going to sag. So it's similar with our vertical alignment and our skeleton. And a beginner, what we really want them to do is become aware of these smaller muscles that are meant to suspend the skeleton in the right alignment. Then the larger muscles will fall into place and start toning better.
What are the common mistakes you see people make when they initially start practicing Pilates?
Well, one of the problems now, I think, is Pilates has become so important. I call it the flavor of the day, but it's more like the flavor of the generation. It's amazing, because I've been doing it for over 25 years, and of course, originally people didn't even know how to pronounce it, let alone what it was. But now there are a lot of teachers out there, and some are great, and some are just okay, and some are not good. And I think that it's hard for the consumer out there to know, you know, someone who's really good from bad. Initially, they might judge themselves as being inept or incapable, when in fact they're not getting proper instruction. So it's really important to educate the public on how to select a teacher. And it has to be a person that really resonates with you, that it feels right. If it hurts, it's not Pilates. It should sometimes burn, of course, a good burn, you know, as any exercise routine. But if your lower back is hurting, or your neck, you know, you're either progressing too quickly, or the teacher isn't changing the exercises. Original Pilates is quite challenging. Question your teacher, their pedigree, who they learned from, how long they've been teaching, and hopefully you have a choice. It depends on where you live. But there are great things online now. You can download, you can buy DVDs, you know, and some of that instruction might be superior to what you even have live locally. So I think it's important to, if you don't like it at first, you probably haven't found the right teacher. Don't give up on Pilates because it's fabulous.
Can you recount any inspiring stories about people that you've worked with and how you've helped them?
I had a lady who came to me a number of years ago who was extremely overweight in her late 50s, and she said, I have a grandchild and I want to be able to get down on the floor and play with him, and I want to be able to lift him and move, and I can't. And I know I need to lose weight, that's part of it, but I also need to get in shape. And she studied with me quite regularly, twice a week. She always said I saved her because she really was able to enjoy her grandchild. But I've worked with young and old, dancers, athletes, aspiring athletes, really retired folks. I worked with a man in his 80s. I'm working with a cancer patient now. I'm working with a heart transplant patient. It's really quite inspiring because it works from the inside out. It can be adjusted to be a really vigorous, aggressive workout for a competitive athlete or someone who's rehabbing from something as serious as a heart transplant or cancer. So it's beautiful because it can be individualized.
So tell me about the story of how you actually became a Pilates instructor.
Well, that's an interesting story. I'm probably one of the classic cases. I was an injured dancer. I was a ballerina. I worked in Europe for years, and I had trouble with my back from the moment I became a professional. In fact, I had trouble before that, but as dancers and athletes often do with a narrow window of time to pursue their careers, they go on through injury. And so I was in a lot of pain by the time I was in my mid-20s. And a fellow dancer of mine told me about her teacher. Pilates wasn't even the word we used back then. She said, you've got to go to my gym. Just check this out. It's really helped me. I have a bad back. So I thought, well, I have nothing to lose. It was this summer and I was unemployed. So I went and checked out this gym, and it was the oddest collection of medieval looking equipment. And I was kind of appalled. It's a tiny space, but there were all these people doing beautiful exercises. It looked like underwater ballet to me, and I thought, well, I could do that. I'm a professional. Well, all too soon I found out that I couldn't do that right away. Kathy took one look at my back, which, as it turned out, I have double curvature of the spine, scoliosis. And I was in a lot of pain, but so used to it. And dancers and athletes are always pushing themselves and in a lot of pain anyway. So when people complain, and I complained, I just thought, you know, I've got what everyone else has got. But she looked at my back and said, I'm not letting you get on any of this equipment until you learn to breathe properly. And I thought, what's she talking about? But that was my introduction to Pilates. And she sent me down the street in Manhattan. Everything is very small and compacted. And a colleague of hers that she had trained with, who was about 10 years her senior, and I think she was probably in her late 50s, early 60s at the time, Corolla Trier, was looking for a teacher. And she took me on as an apprentice. And that's how I became a teacher. And I went back to my dancing career. It really, I'm walking proof that Pilates works. I went back to my dancing career, always knowing that when I retired from performing, this was going to be my career because it had saved me, and I knew it could save others, and what a wonderful gift.
Is there anything that you do now that you're professional that you didn't do when you first started?
I'm very grateful for where I am now, though, because I feel if I had not been an injured dancer, I wouldn't have become such a patient teacher. I understand very much people's fear when they come from an injured place to start an exercise program. And of course, relating back to the breathing, if you're afraid, you're not breathing properly. So it all kind of goes in a little cycle.
And what advice would you give people who sort of fall off the wagon, who kind of break their habits? How can they get back on track again?
Well, it is hard. And, you know, even for myself, I'm over 50 now. I have a very high level of fitness, but I have to back off my expectations of what I was able to do in my 20s and 30s before I was married, before I had a family. I have issues with an aging body myself, and I think we have to be forgiving, but we also have to be disciplined enough to say, well, we're starting over again whenever we lay off. You know, for me, if I lay off for 2 days, I feel guilty. Now, that's probably extreme, but I'm a very highly tuned body from years of professional dancing, and I don't feel right anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm depressed if I don't work out. And I think that's the thing for people to remember most, that exercise is a mood elevator, and it's the best. You know, it's free, and the air is free. We can breathe better and oxygenate the body and energize. And I have an acronym, BEAM, B-E-A-M, that I use to describe how I teach Pilates. And B is for breathe, because if we breathe better, we energize. The E is for energize. The energy level comes up, the mood adjusts, we have more energy to exercise. A is alignment, because again, I said that's crucial. If we're going to load the body with any kind of resistance training, we want to be in good alignment. And M is movement. So we're breathing, energizing, aligning, and moving into a new body. And it's a new day every day. And I think if we can forgive ourselves for falling off the wagon, start anew every day with an attitude, well, I'm checking in with my body today. How is it? Is it a maintenance day? Is it a day to push a little bit? Or is it a day I'm just happy I dragged myself into the studio at all? And you adjust your workout for wherever you're at, but don't not move. That's the big mistake.
That's a great way to end it. That's a really good answer. Well, it's been fascinating talking to you today. You've given us some amazing content there, and I know it's going to really inspire people.